Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. Today I'll be reading Matthew chapter 13 out of the ESV version of the Bible. So if you want to read along, go right ahead. Alright, this first story is called The Parable of a Sower. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea, and great crowds gathered around him, so that he got into a boat and sat down. The whole crowd stood on the beach, and he told them many things in parables, saying, A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. All who has ears, let them hear. Simple sower parable, just fall on good soil as a person, I would imagine. It's just saying that don't fall, if you fall on good soil, you can't just get sun per se. If you fall on the path, you'll get devoured by birds. If you fall on rocky stuff or rocky ground, you don't have any soil. If you fall among thorns, you'll be choked. But only if you fall on grain or good soil that you will produce 100 or 60 or 30-fold. Alright, the next story is called The Purpose of the Parables. Then the disciples came and said to him, Why do you speak to them in parables? And he answered them, To you it is given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For to the one who has more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. This is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. Indeed, in their case the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled that says, You will indeed hear, but never understand, and you will indeed see, but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, and with their eyes they can barely hear, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For truly I say to you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and did not hear it. Alright, I think the story is just kind of talking about how Jesus tells them literally what he is, I guess. They're not going to believe it, really. These prophets are in that world of Jesus, and these normal people aren't. So Jesus has explained to them in their terms for them to understand how good he is. Alright, the next story is called The Parable of the Sower Explained. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is what was sown along the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while. And when tribulation and persecution arises on account of the world, immediately he falls. As for the sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. As for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, in another 60, and another 30. Alright, well, that was pretty much all the explaining done for me. Not much, just important to the overall story so far. The next story is called The Parable of the Weeds. He put another parable before them, saying, The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds also appeared. Then the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have weeds? He said to them, An enemy has done this. So the servants said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? But he said no, lest in gathering the weeds you root up the wheat along with it. Let both grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, Gather the weeds first, and bind them in bundles to be burned, and gather the wheat into my barn. All right, well, that seems to just be saying the crops are kind of like earth, weeds are bad and evil, and the wheat is good. Then they're quite literally throwing the weed into fire, just like going into hell. So, I don't know, that's how I see it. All right, the next one is called the mustard seed and the leaven. He put another parable before them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed that a man took and sowed in his field. It is smallest of all seeds, but when it has grown, it is larger than all the garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests on its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a leaven that a woman took and hid in 3 measures of flour till it was all leavened. All right, I think that's just kind of saying with both of these that the kingdom of heaven looks small and far away type of thing, but it actually becomes the best thing. Just like with the mustard seed, it's small and unsubstantial, but it becomes a giant tree. Just kind of how the kingdom of heaven is perceived, I guess. All right, the next story is called Prophecy and Parables. All these things Jesus said to the crowds in parables. Indeed, he said nothing to them without a parable. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter what has been hidden since the fountain of the world. All right, pretty simple story, just fulfilling what a prophet said. And the next story is called The Parable of the Weeds Explained. Then he left the crowds and went into the house, and his disciples came to him, saying, Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field. He answered, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed is the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are gathered and burned into fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all lawbreakers, and throw them into the fiery furnace. In that place they will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear. All right, now they're just explanations, so I'll have it done for me, but it shows how straightforward the story is, I think. The next story is called The Parable of the Hidden Treasure. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then, in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Okay, so it's just saying, like, when you invest in heaven, you invest in a whole lot more, basically. All right, the next story is called The Parable of the Pearl of Great Value. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who on finding one pearl of great value went and sold all that he had and bought it. Well, that one's just kind of saying, like, the kingdom of heaven is greater than anything, so you're going to give up everything else just to want to be in heaven. All right, the next story is called The Parable of the Net. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and gathered fish of every kind. When it was full, men drew it ashore and sat down and sorted the good into containers, but threw away the bad. So it will be the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the fiery furnace, in the place where will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. All right, that one's just kind of like the weed story. Just, the net's earth, all the fish are the people. The good will be kept and the bad will be thrown away. All right, the next one is called New and Old Treasures. Have you understood all these things? They said to him, Yes. And he said to them, Before every scribe who has been trained, for the kingdom of heaven is like a master of a house who brings out his treasure, what is new and what is old. I guess just saying writers are important there, just scribes, because it writes down what he's saying. All right, the next story is called Jesus Rejected at Nazareth. And when Jesus had finished these parables, he went away from there, and coming to his hometown, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, Where did this man get his wisdom and these mighty works? Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? And are his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? And are not all his sisters with us? Where did this man get all these things? And they took offense to him. But Jesus said to them, A prophet is not without honor, except in his own town and in his own household. And he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. All right, that one's just simply Jesus went to his hometown, taught them, and they were confused and offended. So Jesus didn't take care of them that well. All right, that finishes out chapter 13. Pretty good one. A lot of it's just, well, 2 of them are just having parables and explaining it, but the majority of it's just parables. First one, parable of the sower, pretty straightforward with it, and he explains it later. So then the purpose of the parables, explaining a lot, pretty much this whole chapter, why it's here, with the mustard seed and the leaven, parable of hidden treasure, and the parable of great value. All those are explaining like why the kingdom of heaven is great. The parable of the weeds is also explained, like the sower one, but it is also comparative to parable of the net, where the bad get thrown away and the good are kept. And then, there's a prophecy foretold, actually two in here, and another story, the new and old treasures. That's just saying it's important to write everything down. Pretty straightforward there. And then with the last story, where he's rejected for knowing too much, I also think that's quite interesting too. But I think the strongest story for me is probably the mustard seed and the leaven, where it's just saying like the kingdom of heaven seems small because you don't know it in a way. And when you're there, when it finally comes to fruition, it is the greatest thing. But yeah, I think all these stories build off of one each other too, which really makes it strong. But yeah, with like the parable of mustard seed and the leaven, the parable of hidden treasure, and the parable of great value all kind of show the similar concept of how great the kingdom of heaven is, how you want to, everything else is smaller and insignificant in comparison. But yeah, I think that'll finish out chapter 13. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.